Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Well, I do have my water, so I'm prepared, and I've tried to whisper all morning just to save my voice for you. Thank you for letting me be here with you today. Again, please, it won't offend me if you can't hear me, just raise your hand. I spoke with Andrea last week, and I was able to go share the same topic with some of our industries and our senior center in Liberty. So we're going to talk about my favorite time of the year, which is summer. But a lot of times we forget that there's safety that goes along with summer too. We're out having a good time, or if you've been out there today, you know that the humidity is here and the heat has come. So we're going to talk about some things that may sound like common sense, and hopefully maybe there's one or two things that can just be a good reminder for you to keep you safe and cool this summer. So the first things we want to talk about is the different hazards of summer. A lot of times we just think of what? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of summer? Sunburn, that's right. Sunburn, we're going to talk about that today. There's other things as well as all the different storms, the change in weather that comes, the lightning, the tornadoes, I know that we had a lot to do with, the hurricane. And then we're going to cover insects today. That's something that's very well in our area, but sometimes overlooked, so we're going to talk about that. Allergies, we also remember all the fires that started last year and the different plants and animals. And then the main focus at the end today is we're going to talk about the heat and all the different ways we can do to prevent and treat that. So first of all, we're going to talk about the sun. And of course, we all know that sometimes in the wintertime or in the cooler months and it gets dark and cold, we may experience some winter blues. A lot of people see an increase in depression during those cold winter months. So sunshine can actually be a good thing for you. Can get you out, get you those vitamins that you may not have as much in the wintertime, and can just brighten your day. But it also, as we know, can be harmful to our skin. As I stand up here with my tanned arms, I do live on the lake and I love the outdoors when I'm not here at work. But we wear sunscreen, and dermatologists recommend at least a minimum of 30 SPF when you're putting sunscreen on your skin. I went to the dermatologist in Greenville a few months ago and asked the difference because I have a young daughter. She's very fair skinned, blonde hair, blue eyes, but she's very pale, and asked, do I need to be using a 15, a 45? Now they even have 80 and 100 SPF. And he said at very best make sure that you use at least a 30 or 45, but the key to sunscreen, straight out of the doctor's mouth, was that you're reapplying. It doesn't matter if it's an 80 SPF or a 15, but that every hour and a half to 2 hours you're reapplying on your skin or your child's or your grandchild's skin, whether you're sweating or in the water or just outside. You need to make sure that you reapply. So, but he said definitely a minimum SPF of 30. So we want to make sure that we use caution when we're out in the sun, because health conditions such as heat exhaustion and stroke that we're going to talk about in a few minutes can happen. And definitely, as we know, the different radiations can lead to skin cancer. And there's 3 kinds of skin cancer. There's basal cell, squamous cell, and melanoma. We know melanoma can be the most dangerous and at risk, and which is one of the reasons that I have went to the dermatologist and steadily believe in using sunscreen, even though I still get the tan color, is that I actually lost my grandfather 3 years ago to melanoma. So I've seen the serious side effects that it can have. And actually it's we can still protect our skins now, but making sure that we start at a very young age or protecting those children and grandchildren behind us, because a lot of times you increase your risk of melanoma or certain skin cancers when you receive those very bad sunburns or blisters at a young age. Even they say it can double your risk if you have 2 or more severe sunburns before the age of 18. One thing that we don't talk about as much is the damage that the sun UV rays can cause to our eyes. So the UV radiation, the UVB, actually can damage your eyes. So very important to wear sun protection, sunglasses on your eyes when you're outside. It's not just a matter of protecting our face from wrinkling, from squinting, but to make sure that we're actually protecting our our eyes. And the more sun damage that you receive to your eyes can actually increase your risk to having problems later on, such as cataracts. So making sure that you wear and protect your eyes, whether it be with a hat or sunglasses when you're outside as well, because the radiation can damage that. We also know that the sun has a very drying effect to our skin, so making sure that you moisturize in the summertime. It can cause premature aging, such as sunspots on your skin that may not go away. It can wrinkle you quicker. You may even, the sunspots may look like a bruise in some areas. A lot of times you see them on your arms, even on your face. And so knowing that as you get sun, overexposure over time, that it becomes cumulative, and so that can premature age your skin over the years. So moving on for sun to the next thing that I love about summer is the water safety, and I love water. And already to start this year, we've had several boating accidents on Lake Keowee, so making sure that whether you are on the lakes or around the pools or any type of water, that you just always keep caution at the front of your mind, whether it be yourself or others or even those small children. Making sure that children enroll in swim lessons at a very young age now is very important. They even start at the age of 3. And trying to remember that lifeguards can only do so much, that it's our responsibility to watch those children and grandchildren and never leave the child unattended. Even in, as we know, the smallest foot of water, that they can still have accidents as well. So going on to the sting of summer is what I like to call it. These lovely insects that join us this time of year, and knowing that as the heat rises, that the insects start coming out more and more, and that not only are they just a nuisance, maybe sometimes you're trying to have a picnic and those flies and gnats get in the way, but they can also be dangerous and cause health problems as well. I listed here some of the common insects that we have around. Of course, our bees and wasps, yellow jackets, and then the lovely fire ants. So far, every time I've spoke about this topic, at the very end, I'll ask if anybody has questions. And last week, twice, somebody said, "Do you have a cure for the fire ants?" No, I don't. All I know is that my grandparents put grits on it, but I don't know if that's helping or not. Some of the other uncommon that we may see is the caterpillars, the different spiders that are around, and even centipedes. And I don't know if any of you have heard the sound outside of the new bug that has joined us this year. Has anybody heard that outside? Cicadas. The cicadas, yes. I live up off Highway 11, like I said, on the lake, and so we've had a new noise for the last few weeks that I had to research and find out what that was. The insects can not only be a nuisance, as we mentioned, but they can cause allergic reactions. So I'm sure most of you who know that you're allergic to bees carry around everything that you need, and to know that the reactions can change over years. You may not be allergic to an insect and develop that later on, or that can actually worsen later on. So making sure that you know that. Also, these insects that like to sting and come around, they're going after the sweet smell. So a lot of times when you are having a picnic and you're having the sweet smelling food, that's when those flies and gnats and even the bees come around. But remembering to protect yourself not only with the sunglasses and the sunscreen, but also knowing that those smelly perfumes and lotions that we wear, even our hair products, may attract the insects to you as well. So if you know you're going to be outside for a prolonged amount of time, you may want to lay off some of those smelly fragrances, because that can attract the bees and the insects to you. They also, of course, go around food, different beverages. Again, they're going to go around the sweet smells, and of course we know anywhere that garbage is kept, they will be found. If you were to have an allergic reaction, sometimes there's all different, just like I've talked about with you before about symptoms of a heart attack, reactions to medications, they can differ in everybody. So some of the things I've listed here you may have experienced or not before is hives, itching, swelling of the area, tightness. You may even have redness around the spot that you got stung or bit on. Hoarse voice, and no, I haven't been stung by anything. Swelling of the tongue, even dizziness, which can come in result of the lower blood pressure drop. And then some people have severe reactions such as unconsciousness that can happen. You know, with bees, they may leave behind a stinger, so just be careful when you are removing that, because there could be poison left in the stinger and you don't want to get more venom in you. And as we know, some of those bees can sting repeatedly, so we want to make sure that we get out of the way of what's going on. Basic first aid is just making sure that you are aware, again, if you've had a reaction in the past, of how you need to respond. Or just keeping the area that you were stung or bit clean with simple soap and water, drying the area, and then if it's stinging, and it might not be you, it may have been, like I said, a young child with you as well, you could even apply a cold compress, and that will help with some of the inflammation that may be in the area. Of course, if you're having a severe allergic reaction, you want to get help with 911 or to the hospital as soon as possible. If you got stung on the hand, I was skipping over, you know, making sure that you remove your jewelry, because if your hand was to swell. But like me, you may not have any allergic reaction at all. I've been stung a few times over my life and never had a problem. But again, it's just having that awareness and making sure you respond appropriately. Some other insect hazards that are out there, we know it's that time of year for snakes and the different scorpions that may come around, making sure that you spray. And just as I tell my own daughter, watch every step that you take, whether it be snakes or fire ants that might be out there. Very important to know is the mosquitoes and ticks, and they actually can carry different diseases. So making sure that if you have any symptoms during this time of year, that could even be like flu-like symptoms or anything new that's making you feel sick, that you let your doctor know, because sometimes the mosquitoes or ticks can carry diseases such as Lyme's disease that can cause a lot of inflammatory responses. Again, just like with sunscreen and sunglasses, protect yourself. If you know you're going to be in the wooded area or outside for a long time, it might not hurt to have some bug spray repellent as well. And over the years, now they've become with organic and with fragrance-free, so it's not quite as bad as it used to be. And of course, the different ones I have listed here, DEET is still found to be the most protected with research. So next, we're going to talk about how warm it is outside today. It's very humid and warm, and as the temperature rises, so does the stress on our body as well. Especially if you're used to being, your body's acclimated to being inside. Andrea and I work in the hospital all day. It's pretty chilly in here, so when we go outside, our bodies aren't used to that, and maybe that goes the same for you. The more you're in an environment and climate, your bodies will get used to it. So those people that work outside every day, over time, their bodies adapt to that and they get used to the heat. So you want to make sure that you acclimate to the heat and that you increase your hydration this time of year. Different people sweat differently, but even though if you may not be perspiring, you still could get dehydrated. So you want to make sure you increase your water intake. Making sure that if you're going to be outside for any length of time, that you consider what clothing you're going to wear. You want to wear light colored clothing that will not attract the heat, and loose fitted clothing to help, let your body breathe. Take frequent water breaks, or even go inside ever so often, just to make sure that you're giving your body temperature time to cool down. And remembering to apply sunscreen. Here I have at least 15 SPF, but I recommend 30 as a minimum. And of course, not leaving your kids and pets inside. So let's talk a little bit about our bodies being heat regulators. Sweating is the way that our bodies can become stable for our temperature, but it does relieve not only water through our perspiration, but we lose sweat and some of the vitamins as well, the salt that comes out. So sometimes it takes a little more than water, maybe your Gatorade or your Powerades. That's why they created those, what we call sports drinks, to help put that potassium and sodium back in your body. And then, as you get more hot in your body's heat, it usually comes out, our head is the hottest spot. So making sure that you keep your body cool, and even cover with a hat if you need to. Summer heat is various different things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about something as small as a rash to stroke over the next few slides. So heat stress is a serious hazard not only at the workplace but at home, depending on what you're used to, and it can place an abnormal stress on your body. And so normally when you have a rise in your body heat, you can experience several different things such as muscle cramps. You may notice that when you're out in the heat you become more weak, sometimes even disoriented, and some people will respond and become ill. So these are 6 factors of heat stress. The temperature, the humidity like we're seeing today, movement or lack of air movement, the different temperature in the surroundings. Again, your clothing can trap the heat in, and the more physically active you are outside, you might become hotter as well, so that can raise it. Early signs of trouble, again, these can vary between everyone. You might notice that you're having an increase in fatigue or tiredness, maybe becoming irritable, having those muscle cramps. This is all signs of heat stress. That's your body trying to get used to being warmer than normal. People that are at greater risk of heat stress, maybe those who suffer from heart conditions, maybe are physically unfit, so the more physically active you are, the better you'll respond. If you're overweight, drinking too much alcohol can definitely dehydrate you. And again, if you're just not used to those higher summer temperatures, that can put you at a greater risk of having heat stress. Next we're going to talk about is heat rash, and this doesn't really become very dangerous. It can just be a nuisance. My fair-skinned daughter that I mentioned, she gets a heat rash from being outside, and even has what they call a sun rash, which just means that when she's outside in the sun and in the heat, her body responds in a way that gives her a rash, and it's not dangerous, it's just aggravating. You can see it, and of course it itches. So not really anything that you can do to prevent it. Some are prone to it and some are not. How to treat it is basically, again, just like with the insect bites, we want to make sure that we keep the area clean and with soap and water and keep it dry. So when you're inside out of the heat, making sure that you keep your body nice and clean and dried. And then there are, of course, the calamine lotions and different lotions that you can put on your body to help with the itching, but mainly just making sure you keep it so your skin can breathe. Heat stress that we just talked about is just, again, staying hydrated. I can't say that enough in these hotter months. Making sure that if you're going to be outside, you take it slowly. If you're going out to work in the yard, you may want to do it in the cooler early morning hours to let your body become slowly acclimated to the heat. And then just, again, good proper nutrition. Heat cramps, we've talked about those. You might experience that not only in your legs and your calf muscles, but sometimes even in our abdomens we'll have some cramps related to prolonged exposure to the heat. First aid for this is just to rest, of course, common sense, move to a cooler environment, again, stay hydrated, and then I put on there about the Gatorades or the Powerades. You might need to replace some electrolytes this time of year. It may take a little more than water. And then after being very physically active in the heat or having a lot of physical exertion, maybe that you're working harder or just very hot, you could also experience heat exhaustion, which is every one of these you can tell was progressing a little worse. And so some of these symptoms, profuse sweating, weakness, even paleness of the skin, or your heart rate might increase during this as well. Other symptoms, of course, dizzy, nauseous, headache, even vomiting and unconsciousness could occur. This is when we fail to replace the fluids that we lose, and we, again, remember we're going to lose fluids and salt through the sweat. So just, again, the importance of making sure we stay hydrated. So making sure that you get to a cool place, keep those clothes loose and dry, and even, you know, have wet rags. And now they make the little towels that you can wrap around the back of your neck if you're out cutting grass or gardening or anything like that to help keep you cool as well. These are just other symptoms. I won't review them all, but basically with heat exhaustion, this is when your body temperature is up in the low 100s, higher than 105, and you may even notice your heart rate becoming faster, your blood pressure rising. and people can experience loss of consciousness or even have went into a coma. So this is very serious. Which the next level leads to a heat stroke. And we don't hear about this very often, but it does happen. This is when they continue to suffer from the heat. They need to get medical attention immediately. And so if you were with someone, you would, again, same thing as we've repeated, make sure you loosen their clothes, get them to a cool spot, get them help as quick as possible. So just a review, a lot of the heat rash, heat stroke, heat stress, sort of you hear the same common theme, making sure you wear the loose clothing, hydrate, and just acclimate yourself to the heat. So making sure you're coming in and out of the sun to cool off. And remember, it doesn't have to be a sunny day for it to be hot and humid outside, so you could still sweat and lose those fluids. To avoid those high sunburns, make sure that you protect your skin, protect your eyes, and then between 10 and 2 is typically when the sun rays are at their highest, so maybe trying to stay out of the peak of the day. Consume your water to stay hydrated, remain cool, come inside, take breaks, and then just pace yourself. So if you know you're going to be out in the heat, trying to schedule your day so that you can be out there during the cooler parts of the day in the summer. That is it. So we've talked about sunscreen, sunglasses, insects, and heat, and making sure that you just are aware and protect yourself so that you can have a very safe yet happy and healthy summer. Anyone having, yay, we made it. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.